Your host, Juliet Clark. And today we have a guest that's a little bit different than normal. We have a budding fiction writer, and I'm pretty excited about it because she's trailblazing an entirely new genre. So that's exciting. Before we get started, don't forget to go over and get your free subscription of Breakthrough Author Magazine. You can find that at www.breakthroughauthormagazine.com. And on the thank you page, notice there is a quiz. Find out how much you really know about writing and publishing and promoting. And I think as most people answer on the quiz, they don't know what they don't know, and they've got a lot to learn. So don't forget to go over there. Today's guest is Eme McAnam, and she is a first-time novelist coming from a background as a singer-songwriter. She's been blessed with time and perspective, and she's enjoyed a successful business career resurfacing into her life as an artist. Currently, she's a storyteller and a light chaser. Sunsets are the sweet spot of her photography. People with years of experience and emotional depth inspire the characters in her novels. Romance, love, and reality based with life's messy parts, transforming into beautiful stories of lives fully lived and enjoyed throughout their senior years. So the genre that she is trailblazing is senior romance. And we're going to talk a little bit about why there's a need for this and why it is an up and coming genre. Stay tuned. Welcome. How are you today, young lady?
I am just great. Thank you. And you?
I'm fabulous. I'm really excited, as I said in the intro, about a new genre of books, the senior romance that's going on. And so what prompted you to decide? Were you a romance novel reader before? And what prompted you to do this?
Well, there were a couple of things. Yes, I've always loved romance. I mean, I'm a lady who enjoys a little excitement in life. But I had started to notice that all the heroines in the book seemed to be young and beautiful, and I was not relating to the stories in the ways that I wanted to. As much as spectator sport has value, I thought there is a story that we're not reading. And I wanted to bring that so that people like myself would have stories where they could see themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, just going back, you've been doing your cover design, or, by the time this recorded, which was in November, you were working on your cover design. And that was one of the problems you were having, was getting them to make the woman on the cover look a little older, right?
Absolutely. All the clip art was curvy, young people who are probably 13 years old. If you know anything about modeling, they use very young people to project even somebody in their 30s. So it was challenging. And I worked with the artists to find bodies that could be reflective of beauty, but not the same kind of curves as you have in your 20s.
Right. As you like to say, they're a little softer, right?
They're a lot softer. That's right. You can cuddle better with somebody as they get older.
That's very cool. So in Freefalling, you have a character who is very chic, but she's going through some of the things that happen when you're older. And that's what I really liked about when we first talked was, there's not always a happy ending in senior romance. And it's because there's so much going on in a senior person's life. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, I would argue that there is a version of a happy ending, but happy endings look different. When you're coming to the end of the stories that seniors are living, sometimes they don't live forever, but their spirit lives forever. And they find more of who they are in that chapter if they're well loved. And so I would say that, yes, it's different, but I would argue that the happy ending is still happy. It's just a senior version of happy.
Okay, I like that. So talk about some of those things when you go into a romance at an older age. I think you and I initially talked about, when we're dating, people still date like they're 18, and so let's get into all the reasons why that isn't. When you're a senior, lot going on.
There's a lot going on. And, the truth is, when our partners show up and pretend to be young, they're cheating themselves. Not only do they cheat us, they cheat themselves, because there's no way they're going to be able to follow through in the same way they did in their 20s. But if you focus on what you bring to the table now, I would argue that men could maybe market their sensuality. They're not going to be showing up with the same vibrancy in other respects without getting gross. But the truth is, the vibrancy is changed, and yet the sensuality is unique and special. And I would argue it's a gift that many women welcome.
Yes. I feel like right now we should cut to a, what is that stuff the men use? The little blue pill commercial. After you so tactfully did that.
And the two tubs that are sitting in their line, in the tub next to one, it's ridiculous what we're told we're supposed to expect. If a man comes with that kind of vibrancy, you've got to assume he doesn't have heart issues, because there are many men who can't use the blue pill. But, the other part of that is there's a scene in the book where the man is using a blue pill that's not quite working. And it's like watching somebody pull the string on a lawnmower.
And the sputtering.
Yeah, that's right. It's not as dependable as some men would like to believe it would be.
Yeah. And it's funny. Last time I was in Mexico, my ex-husband asked me to buy the generic in Mexico. And everybody's like, you're buying that for your ex-husband? And I literally said, as long as he's not using it on me, I don't care.
I get it.
But there are other things with senior romance. So by this time in your life, there are usually children, grown children, grandchildren. I remember dating a while back where, a guy told me he didn't really need a woman because he had 11 grandchildren. It's like, okay.
Oh, women do the same thing. They get lost in other kinds of relationships, and they lose their ability to be in a romance because they have compartmentalized in a different way. I would argue that's a mistake, because having a relationship with somebody who's an equal is very different than it being in position over a family system. Mm-hmm. So families become one of the factors, but health becomes a factor too. And so learning to be good and loving one another with the changes that are happening, I think it's important.
Yes. And then recently I read a story about Patrick Duffy and Linda Pearl, and how many seniors will lose a spouse and say, oh, I'll never find love again. And I thought their story was so sweet. That they've known each other for years, and, it's not the same as your first love, but it doesn't mean that you can't love again either.
I have an interesting story. I have a friend who just recently has been pursued by a man who's turning 80, and she's turning 75. And at first she looked at him with all his limitations. And then she noticed how nice he was. And then she started to relate to the fact that he was more thoughtful in ways that her ex-husband never had been. And though she'd been out of the market for a long time, being a good girlfriend that I am, I was helping her shop for lingerie and things that'll be the accoutrements of making a good match in the sensual areas, because he'd already said, he's kind of interested in that. And he appears to have some vitality that many men don't have at younger years.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So also too, getting away from, obviously you don't have Fabio on your cover.
No,
but
no.
there are other considerations here. We talked a little bit about family and kids. Finances as you get older are much more complicated than when you first get married, maybe in your 20s or 30s as well.
Well, both people are bringing something to the table, and that does get complicated because the old-fashioned way of dealing in relationships is that your suitor pursues you and picks up the expense of all dates and things of that type. But the truth of it is people are contributing in different ways and also have different resources to draw from. So if one partner has significantly less money, it's really not fair to expect that person to carry the financial load. On the other hand, maybe one partner's doing all the cooking. Maybe one partner is handling all the driving, or you know what I mean? There are different ways that people contribute to relationships. But you're right. It will come down at some point to the question of money, and that circles back to family, because sometimes families are opposed to their seniors being in relationships because they think their inheritance will be gone if they get involved with somebody.
Yeah, no, I know exactly. One of my golf buddies talks about frequently that she would like to buy the family home that her father and stepmother are in because that's where her mother was at, and there are things going on there that make it difficult, make it very difficult. So, in your book, you also deal with one of the things that seniors probably deal with more than other age groups, and that's illness.
Well, yes, more seniors are dealing with illness than people who are younger. It's a difficult chapter in that respect. That doesn't make them less lovable, however. But when you're dealing with that, the book deals with specific kind of illness. You have to accommodate for whatever those challenges might be. My friend said, this guy, he has some heart problems, and I don't even know if I should bother with him because he has heart problems. And I said, well, let's be realistic and look at what challenges you might be brewing and how does that fit? Because the truth is, everybody has something brewing, whether we know it or not. And that starts when we're young. So the truth of showing up in relationship is being able to somehow get past the superficial and get down to what helps you feel really connected to a human being. I think one of the potential challenges, though, is that, for instance, my friend who says he has heart problems, he may die before she does. And as a good friend, I said, I will help you with that. Because if you get to be loved better now than you've ever been loved before, that is a gift that the universe is bringing to you today.
Very nice, very nice. And hopefully by the time you get to be a senior, you've really figured out what's important in life. Because I think we go through those stages and it becomes more and more clear, especially for women. Because I want to say, I see women get in their 40s and 50s and it's just like, this is how it is. If you don't want to hear it, go away. I mean, they get more, they're not as silenced as they used to be. They're very direct. The BS goes away.
That's very true. I would say from about 50 to 65, there's this bold awareness that we hit. It's like, all right, this is the line. This is the qualification. This is what I'm really looking for. Because when we've come out of relationships that don't work in the way we had hoped they would, then we have a more clear view. I would say, however, as time continues, people start looking at some of the rules they had. For instance, at 50, I needed a man to be physically active. I had been very physically active myself and expected that from my partner, or I'd be deeply disappointed. Well, maybe it's not running when you're 70. Maybe it's somebody who can go for a walk in the woods. Maybe by the time you're 80, maybe it's somebody who's willing to go for a drive. You go for a walk in the woods and they read their book in the car as you're getting a little hike. It just means that over time, what really makes our heart sing doesn't change, but the way we achieve that has to alter over time.
Yeah, yeah. And I face that at 61. I do want somebody who's physically fit because I still do all of those things. So that is important to me. And I find a lot of people are not in shape at this age anymore. So
oh, yeah, that's true at 50. It's shocking.
yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it is. It is shocking. It's very shocking. So this book is called Freefalling. You're already writing a second book, right?
Yes, I am. I'm working on Reconfigured Dreams.
And do you want to tell us a little bit about that one?
Well, Reconfigured Dreams is a story of a woman who, after a particularly disturbing challenge in her life, she discovers that there's another child. This is not as uncommon as we would wish. And at that point, she starts to second guess everything she felt about her primary relationship. More importantly, she second guesses herself. And she pursues former relationships to try to figure out why was it that she wasn't able to attract what she really needed. And she is defining this particular relationship that she's ending as being similar to the early one. What we learn is they are not similar. I mean, they are both men, but the truth of the story has much more to tell us.
Yeah, very nice. So Freefalling will be out in Amazon, Barnes and Noble on February 14th. So you guys, this is playing, I believe, on the 6th of February. You have a week to go buy it in pre-sale. And I encourage you to go over and do it.
I love it. Senior Romance Day is Valentine's Day 2023.
Is it? There you go. So all you seniors, run out and get it. And if you're not a senior, go get it for your parents. If your mom or your dad is older and they're readers, probably more women than men, I would say. I don't know if a lot of men read romance novels.
I've been surprised at the reviews I've gotten from men, though. Don't be afraid, because men who've lost hope in the fact that they're still sexy get an opportunity to see themselves as a sexy senior. So don't limit yourself. And by the way, it doesn't hurt for somebody younger to see that their seniors have a right to that kind of identity. So take a peek.
Yeah, definitely take a peek. And when you say identity, I do have to share with you guys one little story. After my father passed away, my mother was dating someone who lived in our neighborhood who I'd known forever. And she didn't know how to book a hotel. So she had me book a hotel. And I was literally like, one bed or two. And Mom, you got to learn to do this yourself, because this is really none of my business. So it was a moment where I was like, damn, because I used to book everything for her. And I was like, oh, this is really uncomfortable.
Yeah, so you don't really want to know.
I know. So older people, please learn how to use Expedia and whatever and your credit card. All right. Thank you so much for being on today and good luck with your book. I think it's going to be a big hit.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.